Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. You are here for day 2 of Teen Driver Education, the Hernandez Driveway. As I listed on the chat yesterday, please, when you get here for the live stream, and once the live stream's active, go ahead and throw your name into that chat just so we know who's hanging out with us, just so we know who's able to listen in for the live stream. For those of you watching on the replay, no worries about this. This is just because we want to know about how many people are here for the live stream and who's making it. Let's see. Yeah. All right, so today we are going to be discussing sign signals and roadway markings, the Hernandez Driveway. Now, this is the first of 3 very important days where we will be covering a massive amount of information, and that information is what you need to know to pass your DPS written exam. Here's the thing, though. We repeat ourselves a lot. The information is important, and there's a lot to it, but it's not difficult. It's not super complicated. This isn't like advanced physics or mathematics. This is all just, you're learning some facts, some knowledge, some wisdom, gaining a little bit of that, right? And these are the basic rules required for driving on the roadway, folks. So it's important we know these because we're going to use these for the rest of our lives, all right? Passing the DPS written exam for a lot of people is intimidating. They put it off. They take their time. They're like, no, I'm going to wait. And you know what? It's just not necessary, folks, all right? You will be ready for that DPS exam once you've earned it. All right, and to earn it, all you have to do is complete day 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 assignments. That's it. 5 assignments. The 5th one, that last one we're going to do it together in class on Friday. Okay, so you're responsible for completing 4 assignments on your own and then either joining us for the live stream and participating to get as many of the questions answered as possible, or watching on the replay and following along, listening in, getting the correct information. So one more time you get that right answer. All right, and Friday what we're going to be reviewing is every potential question from the DPS exam, the exact same review the Texas Department of Transportation provided us. All right, folks, so not a big deal, not super scary. So please join me in understanding that you got this, all right? You got this. This is not something that's like prohibiting people. I have adults come in, they sit down with me at 10 o'clock in the morning. By 5 o'clock, they're already taking their DPS exam. All right? It's 5 hours of training, 1 hour to take the test. And they're able to do it. Y'all get 8 hours of education, 4 homework assignments to help reinforce that. So you can do this, folks. You got this. I know you do. And I know you can. All right, folks, so now let's go ahead and jump into, because we are going to be covering quite a bit of information and we got a lot to get done, right? So sign signals and roadway markings, the Hernandez Driveway, right? So traffic signs, they come in a variety of shapes and colors. As a matter of fact, they come in the same number of shapes as they do colors. Now, is there anyone here courageous, anyone willing to participate a little bit today and tell me how many colors and shapes you think we use? Now, it's okay to be wrong. If y'all knew everything already, you wouldn't need this class, right? But you're here with me today, and so just think about the signs you've seen out on the roadway, and think about how many different shapes that you've seen, right? Think about how many different colors you've seen. And can somebody give me a good, educated guess on how many shapes and colors we use in the United States? And just so y'all know, folks, a lot of the signs around the world, or a lot of the countries around the world, use the same set of signs because it makes traveling around the world easy. It makes driving easy, even if you're in another country, if you somewhat recognize. 7 colors, okay, that's close. Not quite there, but very close. Good job. All right, because the correct answer is going to be 8 shapes and 8 colors. Good job. All right. Now, these shapes and colors are used all over the world, as I said. All right, so in different countries, you'll recognize some of these same signs. So let's go over with the shapes first and foremost. And I would like to state something before we get into the shapes. Any shape that's Leroy, any shape that's, you had one job, Leroy, anyone that's like the memes, regardless of whether or not we can tell what was painted on there, if it's been repainted or what, as long as you can identify the shape, you know exactly what it is that you need to do. And so even if all the paint is gone, even if it's silvered out, even if it's 10,000 rust particles, holding hands, singing Kumbaya, if it is an octagon, we know what the octagon is telling us to do, and we still have to do it, all right? Because there's only one sign that's an octagon. What is it? And this is the first one that we learn as kids, I think, because it's related to one of the first words that our parents say to us a bunch of times. No. The octagon tells us to stop, right? Plain and simple. So once again, you see this sign and you can't read it anymore. You can't see what it says anymore. You can't nothing anymore. But you still know it's an octagon, even if it's withered, even if it's starting to curl in on itself. If you can see that it is an octagon, we still need to come to a stop. All right, so no paint, no writing, just the fact that it's an octagon, you know it's a stop sign. And this holds true for any shape that has one job. All right. Now, the equilateral triangle is another one that recently got kind of a facelift, an update. They gave it a little bit more power by changing its color because there's only one sign that is an equilateral triangle. Okay. So regardless of condition, regardless of if you saw someone turn it into the robot devil from Futurama, true story, awesome sign, super proud of that person, still knew that I needed to yield. Even though they very creatively repainted this sign as something else, I still knew what the equilateral triangle sign was. So I was impressed by their artwork, kind of amazed they got it done up on that post, and I yielded to traffic. And I needed to, as a matter of fact, that day. It's kind of cool, though. All right? So, doesn't matter if there's paint, if it's all silver, whatever, rust, curled, upside down. As long as it's an equilateral triangle, we know that the intent is for us to yield. All right? Now, horizontal and vertical rectangles, the state of Texas defines them as two different shapes. So, we call them two different shapes. All right? There are many different horizontal and vertical rectangle signs. However, they always contain information about the roadway. Horizontal rectangles mounted over roads typically identify where you're going, how far it is to stuff. Vertical rectangles typically provide you rules as to how the road functions where you are. Because that's what a speed limit is. It's a rule. Right here, once you get past this sign, you may not go faster than 30. So that means if you're going 45 and you're approaching that sign, you slow down before you get there. Make sure you're going 30 before you hit that sign, because the second you pass it, you are not allowed to be going faster. So if you're going 40 right as you pass that sign, you can get a ticket. That's how speed traps work. Right? Circles, there's only one sign that's a circle, and if they painted like, the earth or whatever, I've seen a couple repaints on these circle signs, and they're usually not very creative. But hey, what they're doing is they're putting people in danger, because some people may not recognize that circle's the railroad crossing sign. The circle is identifying to you that down the road, a short distance, there will be a crossing of railroad tracks. We need to be aware, because if we hear that train coming, we need to hit them brakes, folks. All right. Now, the pennant. The pennant is the latest and greatest in sign technology. Why? Because people did not want to listen to a vertical rectangle this big. So now, we have a pennant sign that's about yay big. Right? The no passing zone indicates that the area you are in, it is not legal or safe to pass other vehicles by going onto the right side of the roadway. So we don't. Or left side of the roadway. So we don't. We stay on our side of the road when we see this sign. We make sure we do not attempt to pass in that area. Now, many drivers miss this sign for two main reasons. Number one, they're not scanning the roadway like they should be. Number two, it's on the left side. This is on the side of the road where it needs to be, so that it's right in your face once you make the poor decision to try to pass a vehicle in that no passing zone. Right? Now, diamonds are simple. Diamonds are all warning signs, and they all take the same basic reaction. Though there are over 500 diamond signs used in the United States alone. Right? And in China, they do have a panda crossing sign. It's adorable. But not very many anymore, though. Not very many panda left anymore, right? But diamond signs, we respond the same way to each and every one of them. We slow down. We assess the situation. That means we take a look and see what's going on and figure out what we have to do to stay safe. Now, dip and bumps, or dip and bump, are the two most ignored signs, and both of those can get you into trouble because both of them need you to decelerate, and a lot. You need to slow the heck down because if you hit a good bump or you hit a good dip going too fast, well, hitting a bump too hard cost me $200. Hitting the dip too hard cost me $200. Right? And it's ridiculous, but yeah, we need to pay extra close attention to diamond signs. Slow down, just take your foot off the gas, figure out what you need to do to stay safe, and then do it. Sometimes we can continue on. Other times we do need to slow down dramatically. Okay? But if there is a sign put up somewhere in this world, anywhere in the United States for sure, there is a sad, sad story behind it, folks. So please do not disregard these signs. Right? Now, there are many different diamond signs. All diamond signs mean warnings, and that is something ahead of you on the roadway that you need to be aware of. Okay? Next one. Go. There we go. And next, we have the Pentagon. All right, folks, and I'm asking all of you this one. There's only one sign that's this shape, and you've seen it basically every day of your lives. What sign is shaped like a pentagon? Now, just little tip, little hint. It's a pentagon like that, like it's straight sides and then like a peak roof, not like the building in Washington, right? Does anybody know? Can anyone visualize the Pentagon sign and tell me correctly what it is? Because this one y'all have seen. More or less, 3,000 times. More or less. At least 3,000 times. When people are crossing roads. See, and a lot of people's brains go to that, and that's kind of close, but there's just one slightly more important detail about it. It's not just about those people that you see going, yeah, it's a school zone, right? But like I said, y'all basically seen this sign every day on your way to school, on your way home from school. If you live near a school, well, then you see it a lot more often, right? On my way to work, I drive through no less than 7 school zones, so I see this sign a whole bunch. But when I asked y'all, which was the Pentagon, y'all could remember the image of people walking, the people trying to get across, but you couldn't remember that it was specifically that school zone sign. Okay, that's the best and worst part about your brain. It's a fascinating piece of machinery, but it likes to think that it's better than what it really is, right? And it's okay, folks. I've had one person out of, how many times have I taught this class? 20? No, it's not 20, 15. One person out of 15 get that right, right? So for those of you that put crosswalk, yeah, it's okay. That's what most people put, right? It's not your fault. Why? Because when I was little, this is what we had to do while riding in the car. This is the window, and just staring. Why? Because there was nothing else, right? And then they invented the Game Boy when I was like 10. I know, I'm old. The very first one, big old monster like that, green screen, kind of sucked, but you know, it was amazing for the times. And so kids stopped paying attention to the road. And video games and electronics progressed and things got better. And now y'all have cell phones, y'all have the internet in your pocket. Y'all can watch any movie, any show, any video, listen to any song at any time. Why would you waste any of that time looking out the window, right? So many of you haven't done so. But my generation and generations before that, well, I mean, staring out the window was basically all we had. You know, me and my cousin turned signs into games. Like first person to spot 27 of a specific sign, you know, won the vacation game. It was ridiculous. It was just something to keep us busy, but we were constantly looking out the window because we didn't have better distraction. Y'all do, so many of y'all are not as exposed to signs as my generation was, as generations before yours were. Because cell phones, they've been around since basically when you were born. Modern cell phones, touchscreens have been around. So yeah, you know what? There's a good reason why y'all don't have strong recognition of this. But here's the thing, folks, y'all are driving. Y'all are gonna be driving very soon, all right? For those of you that paid for the class in full at the very beginning, once you pass the test that we'll issue on Saturday, we'll generate a certificate and you'll be able to go out and get a permit, and that means you get to start driving. So we need to recognize these signs, right? Now, our colors, red tells us to stop, yield, or that something is prohibited, okay? Wrong way signs, they're in red and black and white, telling you how the road works, and it's telling you something's prohibited. This do not enter sign is in red and white. It's telling you how the road works. It would be a vertical rectangle, and it's telling you that something's prohibited. Okay. Then the stop sign and the yield sign. The yield sign used to be yellow. Now it's red and white. Why? Because people would look at yellow signs and think, I don't have to listen to it, it's yellow. But yield signs are super important. We'll get to that here shortly. All right, so yeah, quit moving, allow others ahead of you, or you're not allowed to do something. Yellow signs are all warning signs, and this particular sign right here, one that has vexed Texans, or at least South Texans, for many a year, is known, and vexed means like troubled, bothered, irritated, annoyed. But this little snaky looking road is known as a winding road. It means that there are more than two curves back to back on the road ahead. Slow down and proceed with caution. Now, sometimes we have great visibility as that road is curling through relatively low hills and you can see everything that's going on. Other times it's curving through forests and trees and stuff, and so we definitely need to slow down because we run the risk that, Bambi's going to be like, I shall run through here, and then you shall run him over. Except, he's going to deal hundreds of dollars worth of damage to your vehicle. So this sign right here is the winding road. Now, the reason that I keep saying winding road, and I'm telling you about the winding road, is this sign is also very common basically everywhere else in Texas except South Texas. Texas has a lot of hill country. As a matter of fact, up near the western arm of Texas, it's basically all hill country and flatland interspersed. Like, if it's not flat, it's hilly. If it's not hilly, it's flat, and it changes regularly on that area. All right, so this sign is super common in other places. Down here, since everything's flat, not so much. But there is also a very high likelihood that this sign will appear on your test. So when you see this little snaky looking yellow sign, remember, winding road, right? Because you don't need to miss a silly question on a test. And you also need to know what this sign means, because one day, hopefully, you'll at least leave the valley for some kind of vacation, go get out of the area, do something. Okay, the more of the world you see, the easier it is to understand how tiny we are, and the easier it is to commit yourself to being amazing. But yeah, yellow signs tell us to slow down and proceed with caution. Okay? Now, black and white are regulatory. Rules of the road are going to be in black and white. You go 60 miles an hour here. This road is a one-way that way. Slow traffic, keep to the right. No left turn or no right turn on red. All of those are rules of the road. All of those are going to have black and white on the signs. All right, now the one-way sign is one of the very few horizontal rectangles, right? But we do read our signs bottom to top. So the direction that this arrow was pointing in is the actual direction that the traffic travels, right? That holds true for all street signs. All street signs are read bottom to top, unless it's words, and then of course, you do it normal. But when it's like symbols or arrows or things like that, you always read them bottom to top to understand what direction it is you need to travel on that road, or what maneuver is not permitted, or what maneuver is required in that lane. Okay. Yeah, how the road works, one way, speed limit, etc. And then orange are construction and detour signs, and just so that you are aware, Texas doubles all traffic fines in construction zones if workers are present. So if you see a bunch of yellow signs and you see people doing stuff around the roadway, you definitely need to make sure that you're not breaking any rules in that area, because what could have been a $150, $200 ticket turns into a $300, $400 ticket because workmen or machinery was present. Right? Because why do they do that? Because people muck around in construction zones, and we need to slow down. That's what that orange is telling us. Be careful in this area. Right? And then a detour is an alternate route around construction that is enforced. You cannot avoid it. You have to take it. That's what a detour does, is it redirects you. You're like, I'm walking to over there, detour, okay, go this way, and then come this way, and then back this way, and then, oh good, I'm back where I wanted to be. All right, that's a detour. Okay. Let's see here. Green are our guide signs. They're mounted above the roadways, and they're also the street signs. telling us where we're going, where we're at. All right. Nice and simple. And then blue are my favorite on those long drives because I've driven all over the country. I've been to most states in these continental United States in my adventures. And blue are awesome because that's the bathroom. That little park you can go stretch your legs at. But it's also, hey, next exit, gas station, McDonald's, Whataburger, Dairy Queen. Oh, look, it's got all the restaurants, all the hotels, all the things that someone on a trip might need. And that's why I love me some blue signs, because blue signs are for us. Blue signs are more than just telling us where we're going. They're like, hey, in case you need something, boom, all of this stuff is right here at this next exit. And that is fantastic. Because when that blue sign says Bucky Beavers, taking that exit, I love that place. That is the best place to use the restroom, to get something to eat, to fill up your tank, because everything is so clean. And I went into a Buc-ee's once, and I straight up heard someone be like, I'm a quit. And then his friend looked at him like, you're an idiot. Why would you quit this job? You could be working at a Stripes. Yeah, you're right. I've never seen that level of job satisfaction from a gas station, but Buc-ee's my favorite places to go because even the employees love it there. Right? So those blue motorist service signs, they're lifesavers on those long trips, folks. Right? Because sometimes we're like, oh my God, I need gas. Is there a gas station at the next exit? If there's no blue sign telling you there is, there isn't. So you don't have to waste your time and gas doing it. Now, brown are public recreation and cultural interest. All right, they mark state parks, historical districts, hiking trails, museums, etc. Basically, inexpensive, awesome stuff that's going to tell you about the nature from where you're from or the culture of where you're from. And in city, when you see brown signs as the street signs, you are in what is referred to as the historical district. And a historical district, in case you didn't know, is where the town started from. And I told someone this once, and they were like, that can't be right, because in McAllen, the historical district is like 6 blocks up and 4 blocks over. And I'm like, yeah, that was McAllen back in the day. McAllen started off as a little pueblito. It was just a little town, bunch of houses all together, nice bunch of beautiful houses. But the historical district out there is clearly marked because they have those nice, elaborate brown signs. In Far, you got those ones over there on Cage, because Cage is the OG road through Far. And so that's part of the historical district. And you can find them in whatever city you live, well, most of the time. Some cities are still a little new, a little small, and they won't have stuff like that, but most of the bigger ones are going to have that historical district showing you exactly how big that town was when it really just kind of started. Right? And for me, I think that's kind of neat. It's kind of like a little trip back in time to think that McAllen is like 1/50th of what it used to be. Or, I'm sorry, used to be 1/50th of what it is now. Now, let's talk about the 2 most important signs, though. All right? Because especially here in the Valley, and I mean, today I saw it 3 times on the first one, and maybe a half a dozen times on the second one, but that's because, I was driving and I wasn't checking to see if people behind me were doing it. I wasn't checking to see if people, like, way down the road ahead of me were doing it. I could really only tell if people close to me were yielding. But it's still a lot for these signs to be disregarded. So, a stop sign. What does a stop sign mean? It means that you need to make a full stop. At 3 a.m., there's no traffic, nobody out on the road. You need to make a full stop, right? It's 1 in the morning, you see nobody around, you are in the middle of nowhere, and you can literally see a mile in each direction, and you see no vehicles. You need to make a full stop, right? If you have 5 friends in the car and they're yelling at you, what are you doing stopping? There's nobody coming. Go, go, go. That's A, illegal. That's B, giving in to peer pressure. And C, that's putting your life and the life of others at risk because you're not doing what you need to. Because what if someone else is driving with their headlights off because they don't like the rules either? And they go through that stop sign because they're not going to stop. You can stop. At the same time that you decide there's no cars coming, I'm going to go through. And then you and your 5 friends might make it out, might not. Right? So how long does a full stop last? A minimum of 3 seconds. Now, why is it at least 3 seconds and not just 3 seconds? Because if it takes 8 seconds for it to be safe for you to go, you wait 8 seconds. If it takes 12 seconds for the right of way to make it to you, you wait 12 seconds. Right? If it takes 5 minutes, for Farmer John to finish moving 12 cows out of the intersection so you can get through, then you're going to be stuck there for 5 minutes. But you need to stop for at least 3 seconds, and then you may proceed once everything is safe. But the more important question is, when do you get to start counting? When do my 3 seconds start? Well, people in the valley like to think the 3 seconds start when they start slowing down. And when they arrive at the stop sign, their 3 seconds are done. That's not correct. Right? When the vehicle has completely stopped moving. Right? So what does that mean? After your vehicle has finished rocking back and forth and there's been zero movement, none, your car is completely stationary like it was parked for at least 3 seconds, you have completed a full stop. Right? So let's approach the stop sign and see how it works. First thing we need to do is locate the thick white line. Right? That thick white line has been placed specifically where it needs to be so that vehicles will be able to safely turn onto that roadway without hitting you. Therefore, it is your responsibility to stop completely behind the thick white line. Now, state regulations state that you need to stop 4 to 7 feet behind the thick white line. Well, we don't expect you to jump out with a ruler. We don't expect you to have a 7-foot-long antenna on the front of your car so you can have that hovering over the spot that the line starts. So how do you keep that line 4 to 7 feet ahead of you? Simple. Don't lose the line. As you approach the intersection, make sure you can still see the line when you stop. If you can see it in front of you, you're definitely behind it. And you make your complete stop. Car rocks forward, comes back, and then it's not 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 does not constitute 3 seconds, folks. Okay? 1, 2, 3. That's 3 seconds. Now, I do in-car drives with the students, with the teens, and when we come to a stop, every single time we do, I count. I look at our little camera in the car that's got a little timer, and I follow its count, and I make sure that I stay metronomic. I want to make sure that when I personally count, that the clock is going to verify my timing as closely as possible, right? Because I want y'all to be comfortable with that full stop. So when I'm giving a lesson, I'm going to make sure you hear it if you need it, because we need to make sure it's 3 full seconds. 2.5 seconds, and then a go is enough to fail a DPS exam, because you have failed to stop at a stop sign and you failed because you broke the law. Would you want that to happen because you got into the habit of making stops a half a second too short? Of course not. So we need to make stops that are a minimum of 3 seconds, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, regardless of whether or not we think traffic's coming. Because that's the law, right? Now, if there's no white line at the stop sign, right, you will use the position of the pole as your marker. And you just need to do is stop completely behind the pole. How do you know that's the situation? When you're sitting in the driver's seat, the pole is that way. The pole is over here. Okay? It is not here. If you see the stop sign right here, you have gone way too far forward. If you see the stop sign over there, where it's further out than your car is, congratulations, you have stopped behind the pole. All right? Now, you may be thinking to yourself, what if I can't see if traffic's coming? There's a rule for that. We'll learn that here momentarily. Right? Sometimes the thick white lines are far away from the sign. Now, as I previously mentioned, those thick white lines were placed there so that vehicles turning at that intersection would have sufficient space and you would not have to worry about getting hit by them. So when the line is further away, it's not because they're trying to be rude. It's not because they don't want you close to their corner. It's because that is the space required. Okay? So regardless if the line is close to the corner or far, we always stop completely behind the line. Okay? So if this intersection is used by large trucks and 18-wheelers, they need a lot more room. You know, you've seen those signs on the back of 18-wheelers. This vehicle makes wide right turns. Right? Okay? They need more room to turn. If you're too close to the intersection, the 18-wheeler will hit you, and then because it's already had the accident and it can't stay atravesado, it can't stay in the way, sometimes they'll just keep going until they get past you, straighten out, and then that's when they call the cops regarding the accident. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes people panic because they hit you because you were too far forward and they just kind of try to drive off. I've seen that happen. It's unfortunate, but it was both their faults. The 18-wheeler should have seen that the vehicle was too far forward to safely go, and the vehicle should have known better than to be that far forward. So if you come to an intersection like this and you've got that thick white line super far away and you're waiting to turn, you're making your full stop. If there is an 18-wheeler ahead of you already waiting to turn your way, they have the right of way. Please wait until they have completed their turn before you pull forward and go. Okay? If there is no 18-wheeler waiting when you arrive at this line, right? Well, now we get to what do we do when we can't see or we need to move forward, right? So sometimes not only do you have a large space, but you also have a line of sight restriction. Doesn't matter. We still complete our full stop behind the thick white line. 1, 2, 3. And then once you have now met your legal obligation. So what do? Now you move forward legally. Okay? Now, if there's an 18-wheeler ahead of you, you wait. You let them turn first. If there is no 18-wheeler ahead of you getting ready to turn in your direction, then you pull forward all the way up, stopping before you arrive at the corner. Okay? If you pass the corner and get into the roadway, you have put yourself in jeopardy because you're now responsible if someone else hits you. And the sort of impact it's caused when just a little bit of your car is stuck out is the kind that twists or damages the frame of a vehicle and can total a car even at low speeds. My little brother's Ford Ranger, someone ran a stop sign, hit him right barely on the front edge of the bumper, but because the bumper was bolted to his frame, it twisted his frame, damaged it, and the vehicle was totaled. He loved that truck, but gone because one person ran a stop sign and barely hit him. So do not proceed, do not move further forward than right there where the corner is. Pretend there's an imaginary line that you cannot cross, because if you do, you're in jeopardy, you're in trouble. All right? Now, if there are no vehicles, once you have moved forward and you're like, there's no car coming, you can continue straight. Or if there's no car coming from the left, you can make your right-hand turn. Or no car coming from the right or left, you can make your left-hand turn. Whatever you need to do once you've verified it. But because you've already made your full 3-second stop behind the thick white line, you don't have to wait any longer. You can just go and do this. Okay? So, step 1, stop behind the thick white line. Step 2, move forward to where you can see if there's traffic coming. Okay, you spent 3 seconds back there. You spend whatever time you need here to make sure everything's cool, and then you proceed. You get to go on. All right? If there are vehicles coming or you're unsure if you're going to make it through before getting hit, then just make a second stop. If an officer of the law comes and tries to give you a ticket for not stopping behind the line, you let them know very clearly, officer, I did meet my legal obligation by stopping behind the thick white line, but then I needed to move forward due to the line of sight restriction, and I was just waiting for everything to be safe before I went. Right? They can't get you. You've met your legal obligation. If they don't want to listen to you, say the same thing to the judge. If you can clearly explain what it is that you did and the officer can't prove that you didn't with the evidence that they bring in, well then, judge will be cool and be like, all right, ticket dismissed. Right? Be sure not to advance forward and block the intersection. Any damage you cause is your responsibility when you do that. Right? That's a stop. So always make the full stop. Always stop behind the line. Always stop for at least 3 seconds and do not proceed until it is safe. Do not go until it is safe. That's simple, right? Hey, look, there's a car coming. They're not slowing down. They're probably going to run this stop sign. But I have the right of way. I'm going to go. Okay, well, that thing's going to hit the driver's side, so you don't have to worry because that'll be the last bad decision you make. No. Make sure it's safe before you go. That's why we stop for 3 seconds. Because that gives us the time we need to make sure. Now, the yield sign does not indicate to you that you have to stop. Yield does not mean stop. It means to allow others to use the intersection before you do. Right? Now, if there is no vehicle that is going to use the intersection, you can continue through without having to stop. It's great. It's fantastic. But there is one thing you do have to do when you come up to a yield sign. Right? And what you must always do is slow down. Now, slowing and stopping are two very different things. Okay, braking is stopping. And that's not what we're saying. We're not saying stopping, we're saying slow down. Okay? How do you slow down? It's very simple. Lift your foot off the accelerator. Once your foot comes off that accelerator, your vehicle will begin to slow down. That's it. You see that yield sign come up? Take your foot off the gas. As you approach, evaluate. I look. I don't see any traffic going to use that intersection. As you're getting closer, I look. I still see no traffic getting ready to use that intersection. I continue through, put my foot back on the gas once I pass the intersection. Now, what happens if we do see a vehicle coming? Okay, oh look, there's a car approaching the corner right now, just about a half a block ahead of me. I've got the yield sign. All right, I take my foot off the gas, and I let them go. Oh, I need to slow down a little bit. They're pulling out in front of me. They turned, going in the same direction. Okay, they're speeding up. Awesome. Now I can go. Continue on. No other vehicles coming. Make it through the intersection, back on the gas. But that's it. That's all you have to do. If you see that someone is going to be using that intersection before you get there, you just slow down and let them through. If you see that there's a bunch of cars that are fixing to use that intersection, you may need to come to a stop. Or if a very large vehicle, like an 18-wheeler, is about to use that intersection, you may need to come to a full stop. But most of the time, it's not necessary. Most of the time, we just have to slow down and let them through. But unfortunately, in the valley, most of the time, people just blow by this sign like it didn't exist. People will be at that intersection waiting to go across or whatever, and people will disregard the yield and will just go through. Right? It is up to y'all to fix this. Right? My generation has already proven that unfortunately we ain't following the rules well enough as a whole. Right? You know, there's a few people out there that are doing a great job, but most of the great drivers out on the roadway are younger people because they've been taking driver's education. They've been reminded of what they're supposed to do. And we have to do this our whole driving life, folks. All right? Now, you want to lift off the accelerator, and when you do, you just cover the brake, because we use pivot driving. That means one foot, set it in front of the brake, and then pivot to the gas, accelerate. When we take it off the gas, just put it over the brake, the natural resting position, because if a vehicle suddenly appears and you are going to need to emergency stop because they're going through, your foot will already be ready, and you'll be able to cut your reaction time in half. Right? Anytime you take your foot off the accelerator because you're slowing down, cover the brake. Just in case of emergency, you'll be faster at the stop. Right? At higher speeds, this can cut as much as 50 to 60 feet off your total stopping distance. And that's a long distance. That's over a school bus. So, very beneficial. Right? Now, the right-of-way, the plain and simple rule for the right-of-way, anytime, and well, first and foremost, the right-of-way is defined as the privilege of immediate use of the roadway. And anytime to pass, cross, street, alley, sidewalk, highway, bike path, there is a rule that determines the right-of-way. All right? Plain and simple, it's the first one to stop is the first one to go. That is the general basic rule. All right? It gets more complicated than that, but right now, that's the basic. If you get to the stop sign first, you get to go first. All right? You may also yield the right-of-way when you are at an intersection. Sometimes you got somewhere first, but you choose to let someone else go, even though it's your turn. You give them a little wave, you flash your lights. That's yielding the right-of-way. Allowing somebody else the privilege of the immediate use of the roadway. Okay. Sounds so fancy, right? The privilege of immediate use of the roadway. Okay? But that's what the right-of-way is. There are rules set up that tells you exactly who gets to go and then who gets to go next. Right? And we need to follow them. All right? We'll learn the rest of these as class progresses. We'll go over it a couple times, but right now we're just keeping it basic. Now, imagine you come up to this red light and there's a gas station right here on the corner. Okay? A gas station is private property, therefore that is a private driveway, therefore they are last in priority of right-of-way. All right? Now, when you come up to this, you're the yellow car, and when the light turns green, the purple car must, by law, is required to wait for the road to clear before entering the roadway. Because anyone on a private driveway, private property, private alley is last in, order of who gets to go. Okay? So, light goes green and this happens. Purple waits, and then they go. But sometimes we yield the right-of-way. Right? Sometimes we choose to let someone else go ahead of us. Right? So we do this. Like blue goes, red goes, and then we're like, come on, buddy, go for it. And then purple jumps out and continues on, and then we follow him. Okay. Now, why would you want to do this? Well, A, sometimes we can tell that purple is going to take that right away whether we let him or not. And what we're doing is we're reducing the risk of us having a collision. Okay? Because if you see that they're getting ready to edge their giant truck in front of your little bitty car, or your giant truck, if that's what you got, right, we have two choices. Do we continue through, not back down, and hope that their brain is smart enough to understand that doesn't matter if your vehicle is smaller, an accident is not going to help them in any way, shape, or form get there faster. Okay? But some people just don't care. Some people are going to go whether it puts you or them in jeopardy or not, because their brain is telling them that they're more important than you, that their being in a rush is more important than your well-being. So sometimes we want to be awesome and just wave them through. Other times, you can see the traffic is just ridiculous and there's no way they're going to get out. I was once stuck in a stripes for 45 minutes. By the time I got to work, my taco was cold, as was my coffee. When my boss asked me why I was 45 minutes late, I showed him the receipt. And then I showed him a video I made on my cell phone 20 minutes after. Now, this was back before I stopped using my phone altogether. But I was just sitting there in my car, and I was like, this is traffic. This is me trying to get into traffic, and I have been here for 20 minutes. And then I pointed it at the clock going, I'm going to be late to work because I stopped for breakfast. I was planning on editing and sharing it to my Facebook, and showed it to my boss instead because he did not believe I was stuck in stripes for 20 minutes. And he asked me how much longer after the video, and I was like, another 20 minutes. It was actually 45 minutes total. And that he really didn't believe. And then somebody said they saw me, that they passed right in front of me. Why was I waiting at the stripes? And I explained to them that no one let me through ahead of them. And he was like, oh. And I took him to my manager, and my write-up vanished. All right? But it happens, okay? So sometimes you can just be someone's hero, let them go. Other times someone's going to take it whether you want it or not. So you just let them go because you don't want to total your car. That's why we would want to do this, right? Now, speed limit, okay? Now, speed limit is another mystery in the valley, okay? There's this leyenda, there's this lie, there's this myth that goes around that you can go 5 miles an hour faster than the speed limit and it's okay. You can go 10 miles an hour faster than the speed limit and it's okay. Well, I'm here to tell you, very happily, very proudly, that that's bull. That is the biggest perpetuated lie that drivers deal with. Because so many people that we trust will be willing to tell us, you can go faster than the speed limit. No, you can't. All right, the speed limit is just that, the limit. So, basic speed law states, the law written that determines whether or not they can give you a ticket, the basic law for it says very clearly, you may not drive faster than is safe and prudent for existing conditions regardless of posted speed limit. Okay? That is the basic speed law. Okay? You may not drive faster than is safe and prudent for existing conditions. Period. Okay? Regardless of posted speed limit. That means if the speed limit says it's 70, but the roads are covered in ice and the fastest that it would be safe to drive on them would be 20, you have to go 20. You can get a ticket for going 40 in a 70 if law enforcement believes you should not be driving faster than 20. Okay? So just absorb that for a moment. The speed limit in the area you were driving was 70. You were going 40 faster than any other traffic. Everyone else is going 20 miles an hour, and the police pull you over and give you a ticket for speeding because you were going 40 in a 70. And you're like, how? Because it was faster than was safe and prudent for the existing conditions, and that ticket's going to stick. Okay? So if everything is absolutely perfect, then we can go to speed limit, not unless. So let's say that you're on a street that's 55 miles an hour. Everyone's driving at 45. You're driving at 50, passing people. You can get pulled over right there for speeding. Okay? Because you were driving faster than is safe and prudent for existing conditions. When you're driving on the expressway, that car that's changing lanes, cutting people off, and you think he's going to have an accident because of how aggressive he's being, he or she is driving faster than is safe and prudent for existing conditions. And if law enforcement saw them, that's the sort of speeder they definitely pull over. Okay. The speed limit is exactly that, the limit, right? Everything needs to be perfect in order for you to drive the speed limit. That means your road, the car, the traffic, the weather, you need to be feeling perfect. Okay. Imagine you're all fluey, you're sick, you can barely stay awake, but you need to go get some more medicine because you got to get better by Monday and it's already Saturday. You got a big test coming up. You got to be better. So you jump in your car. Are you under ideal conditions? Absolutely not. So should you be driving fast? No. Should you be driving slower than the speed limit? Probably. Should you be taking roads with speed limits above 30? Definitely not. Because you are not safe to be driving at that moment. Right? Let's say your car needs new brakes, but you got to get it to the place to go get those brakes. Are you going to be driving the speed limit or are you going to be going slower? Well, you're going to be going slower because those brakes aren't working right and you want to make sure that your vehicle can stop when you need it to. And the easiest way to do that is to drive slower. Put your brakes through less work, right? Slower. It's raining, slow it down. It's foggy, slow it down. It's snowing, the roads are icy, slow it down. You're feeling sick, you need new tires, your car's been acting up. Slow it down. Regardless of what it is, if something that is related to the road, your car, the traffic, the weather, or your physical condition, if something is not perfect, if something is not ideal, if something is not within normal operating parameters for an excellent day, then you need to slow down. Okay? But if everything is perfect, you may travel the speed limit. But for everything that is not, you slow down. If you have 3 things that aren't perfect, you're feeling sick, the roads are a little bit slippery, and it's during twilight, you got that weird light in your eyes, we want to slow down. Slow down for each and every one of those, and make a big slowdown. All right. One thing in the valley that we finally understand is driving in the rain is dangerous. On the expressway, 45 miles an hour during heavy rain. Fantastic, because people stay safe. It reduces the number of collisions because people slow down to 45. When that one person chooses not to and weave through traffic, they'll wind up getting into an accident with somebody else because that's what's going to happen. Right? And if it doesn't, they got lucky. It's not that that's the norm. Right? Because just because it says 55 doesn't mean you have to go 55. It doesn't. Right? Now, we also have minimum speed limits. Minimum speed limits you don't have to worry about down here because we don't see them very often because typically they're in highly agricultural areas, places where they're going to be moving cattle or grain or fruit, vegetables, farm equipment, and they don't want those slow things getting onto the roads. So in those areas, they'll have certain roads that have that minimum speed limit to ensure that only vehicles going above, 40 miles an hour are on there. Right? All those other vehicles or means of conveyance that need to go slower, they'll have another route that they can take, but not one that's going to slow you down. Okay? That's minimum speed limit. Like I said, we don't have those a lot down here. That's ag areas. That's where you see these the most. All right? And then we have advisory speed limits. We got these things all over the place. Right, because advisory speed limits are generally located underneath diamond signs before a sharp curve or turn. Okay? And they tell you the safe speed that you may take that turn under ideal conditions. So once again, conditions must be ideal in order for you to go that speed. So for everything that's not ideal, we slow it down. If it says you can take this turn at 30 but it's raining, take it at 25. If your tires are a little spent and it's raining, take it at 20. Right? If your tires are spent, it's raining, and maybe you're freaking exhausted and you can barely focus on the roadway, maybe like 18 miles an hour. Give it a little more slowdown just to be extra safe. Because it ensures that you execute that turn or curve safely when you slow down to that speed under ideal conditions. Okay? Because maybe one day you can take that curve at 45 miles an hour, but after a little rain, a little bit more miles on your tires, you may not be so lucky and you may wind up going off the road because you decided to go above that speed. Right? There are big brain people with lab coats and dead people responsible for this speed being reduced to what it is. For every sign that exists, there is a sad story behind it. If a curve has an advisory speed limit of 30, not all curves do, but if it does, someone either did the math and said there is no way you can take this turn at the speed limit of this road, or there was no sign, someone took the turn at the speed limit of that road, went off road, ran into a tree, lost their life, and they were like, hey, we need a sign to slow people down a little bit before that curve. It's dangerous. Right? The only accident that I ever had was partially responsible for traffic signals being put up at that intersection. Right? Because it takes tragedy to get them to put signs in. It takes a need and something showing them that need to get them to change where signs, or like maybe a corner used to be a stop, now it's a four-way stop, and it used to be a two-way, or it was a four-way stop, now there's a traffic signal, because whatever was there before wasn't working. If there was nothing there before, well, then nothing wasn't working and keeping people safe, and they had to put the sign up. All right, folks, so just remember that. Every sign has a sad story behind it. Now, regulatory warning signs, let's go over these guys, Raher, just to demonstrate how some of these work for the DPS exam. All right, and it's a great page for it because we got a lot of different stuff up here. Those two one-way signs are identical. They're both telling you that the road up ahead is one way and you have to turn to the left because those arrows point to the left. Okay. That's awesome, right? Because now we know, hey, I can go straight or I can turn left on this next road because it's a one-way road and I can only go left that way, right? Now on the exam, you want to read all the answers and find the one that is the most correct, right? So you might see something like, at the, you may, proceed straight or turn left at the next intersection. That would be accurate if there's a one-way sign like that ahead of you, okay? You must turn left at the next intersection. Well, that's not accurate because most of the time you can still go straight unless you have a do not enter. But since they're just asking you about one sign, you're not going to have that double sign situation. So it's not a you must turn left. It's if you want to turn onto that road, you have to turn left. All right, the one below that one, the diamond on the black banner with a white underneath it, that is the sign indicating a special lane. That is a special lane of travel. The most common one we have down here, the one that you're going to see regularly in the valley, the bicycle lane. Yep. Now, they don't all have the diamond, but a bunch of them do. This is what the sign should be. Sometimes they just have that little bicycle on there, right? This particular sign, though, is the HOV 2+ only sign. And what this one's referring to is high occupancy vehicle. All right, now, I don't think y'all can see it at the bottom, but it also gives a time frame between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. So that means between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. Monday through Friday, if you have a high occupancy vehicle with 2 or more passengers, you can use that lane, the carpool lane. Me and my little brother were on our way to Con to go meet Alan Tudyk and John Rhys Davies, the guy that played Gimli in Lord of the Rings. And I saw the carpool lane, and I saw how much faster it was moving. I was like, hey, there's 2 of us. Change lanes, move into this one. I can't, that's a HOV lane. And I was like, yeah, high occupancy vehicle, 2+. 1, 2, let's go. And so we jumped in that lane and boom, suddenly we were moving 20 to 30 miles an hour faster than the lane that we were in. Now the really funny one was that there were people in the passenger side glaring at us as we drove past. And I thought that was hilarious. I was in the back seat behind my little brother as he was driving, or at least I positioned myself back behind him while he was driving once we got on there because I was hitting the ice chest to make me a sandwich on a long drive. And clearly we were nowhere near the valley if we hit a carpool lane. But I was looking out the window. People were looking at us like, you guys suck. Why do you get to be so special and use the lane? Not knowing that they could. All right, so if you're going on a family trip and there's more than 2 people, then you can use an HOV 2+. If it says HOV 3+, then you need 3 or more people. Okay? These lanes are so good that in California, where they're used all over the place, people will buy inflatable people, like a person balloon. I'm not going to tell you what the main purpose of those things is, but they put them in coats and hats and wigs, and they sit them in the front seat so that the police think that there is a second pedestrian or second passenger in the vehicle, right? Because those lanes really do get you there faster because Only the cars that meet those regulations can use these. Everyone else has to ride in the regular lanes, and it makes a big difference, folks. All right, now that is the old do not pass sign next to the new no passing zone sign. And yeah, the new passing zone sign, it's a big guy. It's like a fish story size. I once caught a fish this big sort of thing. And the old one, it's just a rectangle. Same size as like a speed limit sign. But people did not understand do not pass. So now we have giganto sign. All right? But when you see either one of those signs, what does that mean? That means there is no passing in this area at any time. That's it. Not you may pass vehicles but only cautiously. No. You may pass vehicles but only if they are traveling slowly. No. If you are in that area where that sign exists, you are in a no passing zone. You know, it's like an idiot free zone. You know, idiots hit it and oh, I can't go. They're still allowed in. They know they shouldn't be there. You know you shouldn't be on the wrong side of the road when you see a do not pass. Hopefully no idiot zones do not stop y'all, because, well, we have enough old idiots. We don't need any more young ones. All right. The next sign right there is the one with the only in those arrows, right? So there's another good example, all right? Because this is a sign recognition, all right? You may turn left from either lane. Yeah, that's absolutely right. You may turn left from either lane or continue straight from the right lane. That would be more correct. And in this situation, you would choose the more correct answer. You may go straight or turn left from the right lane. See, that has less information or less accurate information because it's not talking about both lanes than the first one. So you would choose the first one, right? But if the second one's an option, you may turn left from either lane or proceed straight, that would be the most correct. So that would be the one you chose. All right. What should you do if you approach a no U-turn sign? Well, you don't U-turn in that area. It's quite simple. It means U-turns are prohibited on this road. If you're driving up to a road and you see a sign that says wrong way, just as you go through the intersection and you see another sign that says do not enter, what should you do? What do you have to do? Well, you have to turn. You have to turn left or you have to turn right because going straight is no longer an option because that road is a wrong way. And if you do find yourself going the wrong way down a road, please pull over to the right, wait for traffic to clear up, and then get spun around, folks, because that's the only way to stay safe. When you try to make it down to the next intersection to fix yourself, or you try to make it down to the next exit to fix yourself because you're like on the expressway magically going the wrong way, what winds up happening is an individual doing something that they're legally entitled to do can run into you because you're going the wrong way on the road, and now you're responsible for that crash. So if you ever do accidentally go the wrong way down a road, don't panic, don't freak out. Pull over to the right, as far to the right as you can, get out of the travel lanes, wait for everything to clear up, and then spin around and get moving back in the right direction. All right, if there's a no U-turn sign there, well then just pray, because there was also a do not enter. Now, exit 25 miles per hour, that is an advisory speed limit, letting you know that as you exit the expressway through that off-ramp right there, up ahead, the speed limit's going to be 25. During high traffic congestion hours, the speed limit's going to be 25. As you exit, you need to be going 25 so that you can merge with the flow of traffic. All right, here it's 35 as I'm exiting, and the speed limit down the road just before the business here slows down to 35. So when there's a ton of traffic, yeah, all the cars are already going 35. Okay? But when there's not a lot of traffic, it'll be still traveling faster, but down the road, it'll slow down to 35. Okay? So when traffic's busy, you need to be doing the speed as you're exiting. When you see that there isn't a ton of car movement down there on the frontage, then this is going to be letting you know what the speed's going to slow down to very shortly down the road. All right? Speed limit 55, we may only go the speed limit under ideal conditions. Everything must be perfect. Right? Now, stop sign, full 3-second stop. 1, 2, 3. Every time we come up to a stop sign, rain or shine, day or night, whether we think someone's watching or not. Because when we start to bargain with ourselves and say, hey, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, there's not going to be anyone coming. Sometimes we do that when we can see, other times we'll do that when we can't see. When you can see, you can generally be sure that there's no one coming, and you're breaking the law in the safest of ways. When you can't see and you decide, man, I do it all the time anyway, and you go through, that may be the last time you ever get to drive. That may be the day that you die. So do not bargain with yourself. Do not get into the habit. Never fail to make a full stop at a stop sign, right? And then our advisory speed limit sign is telling us right here that on that left-hand curve, because we read our signs bottom to top and that thing's curving to the left, we must be going 35 miles an hour under ideal conditions to safely execute the curve. To safely take that turn or that curve, we need to be going 35 or less. Okay, nice and simple. So now let's just go over the signs rapid fire, folks. This is all the signs. Well, we've actually got 3 pages of signs, but these are the common signs that you're going to run into on the roadway, and these are the ones that y'all need to be familiar with. There we go. Let's get that up so you can see that fully. All right, so warning signs. Number 1, there's a traffic signal up ahead. If this sign is there, rest assured that other people missed the traffic signal, tried to shoot through the intersection, got into a collision. If the sign exists, sad story behind it. Remember that. That will help give you a little bit more respect for these signs, right? Because they're needed. That's why they're there, okay? They do not waste money in putting up a sign diokis, like without reason, right? I think the average cost for putting up a sign is like $250, and cities don't like to throw money away. 4 signs in places where they weren't needed is $1,000 gone. So they make sure it's needed, right? Number 2, the low point or the lowest point of the bridge you're about to go under is 12 foot 6 inches tall. So your vehicle may not be taller than that, okay? Plain and simple, high vehicle, about to go through. If it's taller than that, chunks are gonna get torn off and stuff. If you see another vehicle super huge and the sign says that the bridge is super low, either get ahead of them or put a big gap between them and you by slowing down, because when they hit, there's gonna be stuff breaking off and you could get hurt, right? Number 3 is letting you know that there is a median coming up that's going to divide the roadway. We need to be careful because traffic coming from the other side, their median is ending. We're going to be moving off to our right. Okay. Number 3 and number 15 are basically identical signs, except the image is flipped. Why? Because we read them bottom to top. This is the sign that they're going to see coming from the opposite direction as we approach number 3, going that way. Okay. And it's telling the opposite. It's like, hey, the median is ending, because we read them bottom to top. The median is going to finish. Be prepared to move to the left. Watch for traffic. Okay. 3 and 15 are the same sign, but they're telling you, number 3, that the median is starting. Number 15, that the median is ending because of the way we read the signs. I mean, otherwise they are identical. Number 4 is telling you that another lane is going to come up right next to yours. Be careful with that. Be aware the traffic is going to be coming up. There's going to be another lane next to yours, and they're going to run parallel next to you, right? So be ready. Some people may be trying to change lanes with or without their signal on. So be on the lookout. Number 5 is advising us of a double turn, or double curve. Turns are like number 13. They have a right angle. A double turn is going to have 2 right angles in it, right? Nice and easy. So if you see no right angles in the arcing line, then it's a curving line, right? If you see right angles, then it's a turning line, okay? So number 5 is a double curve. Since we read them bottom to top, the first curve is to the right, the second curve is to the left. Boom. Sign just told you more than you thought it would. Number 6 is a very dangerous intersection. That is a T intersection where a lane to your right is terminating on your road, okay? Now, why is this dangerous? Well, because the people that end at that road right as it ends, when they're looking forward, they're going to see a sign with an arrow pointing in either direction telling them you need to turn right or left, okay? Most of the time, there will be a stop sign for them as well. Not always. If there isn't, they may just try to jump out ahead of you. They may just continue on that turn and get out in front of you. Why is that dangerous? Well, you're going the speed limit. They're barely starting to speed up. Maybe you rear end them. So when we see the sign, we slow down, we pay attention, see if traffic's coming, make sure that they're going to stop before we continue on. Okay? Number 7 is a rough road. Plain and simple words, rough, meaning not smooth, and road, the thing we drive on. So a rough road is a not smooth road. That's a rough road, right? Those roads that make you feel like you're riding on the Oregon Trail heading west for Manifest Destiny. That is a rough road. It's a bumpy road, a dirt road, could have a lot of potholes, could be a gravel road, could be caliche, could be all kinds of things, but it's not the nice, pretty, smooth, paved road. Okay? So when you see rough road, understand that, hey, you're going to be driving a little bit slower on that road. If the weather's bad, that road may be freaking horrible. Number 8 is a transit crossing. All right, that means that there is a little used road that is going to be cutting through the main road. Okay? Now, the fact that it's on that double curve is just for emphasis because transit crossings do occur on double curves. So you would know first the road curves to the right, then there's that transit crossing. We need to be careful. There may be a car trying to cross the road there, and then it's going to curve to the left. Right? That's all it's telling you. There is a little used road that cuts through the roadway. We need to be paying attention. Right? Number 9 is telling us that the road ahead is going to become a two-way. You only see number 9 if you are driving on a one-way or about to turn onto a road that is just turning into a two-way. Right? Like my favorite way to explain this one is when you're in McAllen, and I know most of y'all don't know McAllen, but when you're in McAllen and you're south of Expressway or Business 83, between 10th and 23rd, you're in what's known as the Mercado district, the shopping district, right? That's where all the bodegas are, the places that sell fabric, dresses, all kinds of crazy stuff from foreign countries is just like in there. They have fake flower shops, ribbon shops for all those people that make the mums for homecoming. All kinds of businesses like that, and all of those areas are one-way streets. But if you're on Main Street and you travel north, when you hit Business 83, or Old 83, the one that used to be the expressway going through there, and now it's just, a road that we use. And when you get there, right across the street, you see number 9. Why? Because the road you are on Main Street, is a one-way street. When you cross Business 83, it becomes a two-way. So what does number 9 mean? 9 means that ahead of you, the road is going to become a two-way, and we need to stay to the right. Because we use the right side of the road. We occupy the right side of the road. Right? Plain and simple. But if you don't know what it means, it could be confusing, and it could make you do something silly. All right, so don't panic when you see it, folks. Number 10 is, again, that's a single curve, and that's curving to the right, therefore it is a right curve. Number 11 looks kind of like a cross, and it's telling us, warning us about cross traffic. Dry throat, excuse me. Now, once again, signs are not put up unless something bad happens. So, number 11 is telling you, watch out for this intersection up ahead. Other people have crashed there. Make sure you do what's required of you. That's all number 11 is telling you to do. Now, again, folks, I'm going to ask y'all for a little bit of participation. Please turn on your thinking caps and look at number 12. Number 12 is telling us that we are going to have a reduction in lanes. All right? No matter how many lanes we have right now, we are going to have one less up ahead. Because we read our signs bottom to top, would anyone like to guess which lane is closing? Is it going to be the right lane or the leftmost lane based on number 12? And just to let you know, to mean the other one, all you would have to do is flip it. But does anyone think they can determine, is it the right lane or the left lane that's closing on number 12, since we read our signs bottom to top? Sorry, folks, this is where I make sure that y'all are paying attention. I know this is a little dry right now, but these signs are important because we're going to be using these as we drive down the roadway. And the reason I stop and ask about this one is because when we don't know what this sign means, this is what causes traffic jams. Absolutely, Sam. Yeah, there we go, Maria, thank you. The lane to the right, boom, y'all got a bunch of those. Right? The lane to the right is the one that's going to be shutting down because we can see that right lane comes up and then it edges in and then it narrows out, right? Right? So it's showing us. Well, what happens is, if someone doesn't know what the sign means, they stay in that right lane until they get to that little point where that slanty line is, and now they're waiting. And they have to wait for traffic to be clear before they can go. But since nobody wants to wait because they've made a mistake, what do? They jump over and start going. But they were at a stop when they did that. So now the traffic behind them stops and slows down. And now the traffic over here is slowing down. And maybe somebody tries to change lanes to get out of that lane to not be in there. And they hit someone else because they weren't paying attention to their blind spot. And now, boom, we got a traffic jam. And that's all it takes is a few individuals to go, oh my God, there's nobody in the right lane. This one's for me because it's faster. And then they get to the end and they're like, oh, my lane ended. Oh, well, I get to move over now. And boom, traffic jam. Right? Anytime that people do not get out of that lane before it ends and well ahead of time, that's the only result, is a traffic jam. Anytime people see that lane is open and think it's going faster, so they jump back into it, well, when they get to the end, they're the ones responsible for the traffic jam. So when you see number 12, or you see a sign that says right lane ends, or left lane ends ahead, get out of the lane ahead of time. Do it! Come with me if you want to live. Come on, folks, because it's real bloody easy to change lanes ahead of time when they're letting you know you need to. All right. Number 13, that's a right turn. Number 10 is a curve. Number 13 is a turn, right? Invariably, somebody always mixes these two up, and this could be 3 or 4 questions on your exam that you miss if you get that wrong. Remember, turns have right angles. You know, turns are very precise. Okay? Curves are just kind of, it's just curving, right? Don't mix up the two. Number 14, there's our buddy, the winding road yet again. So please remember that number 14, the one that looks like a snake, is a winding road. Number 15, there's that one. Our median is ending. We need to be prepared to move to our left. Watch out for traffic. They will be moving to their left, or to our left further, their right, because their median is just about to begin. And then number 16 is another personal pet peeve of mine. Number 16, when you look at that sign, I want you to think car water slide. Every time you look at that sign, I want you to think, wee, water slide. Because that's what those lines kind of look like, right? Like a little slide, like those awesome slides at Schlitterbahn. The ones where you're like, as you shoot down the tube. Yeah, and that's what it is. It's letting you know that when the road gets wet in that area, it becomes slippery. But the answers on the exam are going to be like, this road is slippery at all times. No, it's not. This road is only slippery under humid conditions. Abso-freaking-lutely. There must be water present. Right? Or, this road is slippery under dry conditions. No, just when it's wet. So number 16, that's the car water slide, telling you that the road is slippery when wet. All right. Next page. Okay. Now, number 1, very simple. That is a steep downgrade. Why do they show a picture of a truck on the steep downgrade? Well, a downgrade literally means you're just driving downhill, and that sign tells you that it's kind of steep. Why the picture of the truck? Because they're warning you that trucks are going to have a much harder time slowing down or stopping on that steep downgrade. So be careful, folks, right? Number 2 is another one that we need to know because of large vehicles. Ramp metered when flashing. Now, I don't know if you've noticed this as you ride along in the vehicle, since, most of y'all are paying attention to your phones, not the roadway. And that's not an indictment. That's just, fact of nature, fact of life, right? But sometimes you'll see this sign and there'll be a yellow light above it and below it. Well, when those lights are flashing, all trucks, 18-wheelers, anyone carrying freight or cargo needs to exit at that point, drive through a special area, because there's a weigh station. A giant scale is built into that little lane that opens up just for them. And every vehicle hauling freight has to go through there. All right? If somebody skips that, they could be fined for bypassing a weigh station. Why are these important? Or why is it important to know this? Because if you have an 18-wheeler to your left and you see this sign is lit up, we need to slow down. We slow down, and let that 18-wheeler get ahead of us so they can get into that lane and go. For 2 reasons. 1, 18-wheelers have giant blind spots. If we don't get out of their way, they may not know we're there and they may hit us as they're trying to get over. 2, it's easier to slow down to slower than a vehicle than to speed up faster than a vehicle without speeding. Because, well, I mean, it's sad to say that even the 18-wheelers, even the truckers, are speeding on the roadways, and law enforcement can't pull them all over. It would literally take too long, and cops wouldn't be available to handle any kind of real emergencies. Everybody would be doing traffic stops if they pulled over for every violation. So they don't. You will mess up 10 to 15 times before getting pulled over. Typically. Some people aren't that lucky. If you do something that endangers someone else's life, you get pulled over right away. All right? But speeding, not so life-threatening. So skipping this, though, they will get pulled over for it, so they will move over. All right? So when you see this sign is there and those lights are flashing, if there's an 18-wheeler near you, make sure you're not blocking their way to getting to it. All right? Number 3, there's that super ignored sign, the bump. The bump is a high point in the roadway, a sharp rise in the roadway. That could be a speed bump. That could be a little hill that kind of makes your stomach flip-flop like on a roller coaster. That could be a lot of things. But regardless, we slow down a little bit. In my Pontiac Firebird, I took the little hill-type bump too fast, and I kind of got airborne, lost traction, car crashed down. Nothing happened to it then. I was very lucky. The next time I saw a bump sign, or not the next time, but further down the road I saw another bump sign, and I ignored that one as well. And that time it was just a little speed bump. I hit the speed bump doing 25. It felt like I just had a car accident and my muffler got ripped off. So respect the bump. Slow down to 10 to 15 miles an hour as you cross over speed bumps to minimize the damage to your vehicle, because those things will hurt your car, will hurt your truck. Right? It can hurt different parts. I was unfortunate. I had a super low car, so it ripped the muffler right off, but it could also damage your suspension, your tires, your rims, your PVC joints, your front axle, your tie rod. A whole bunch of expensive parts that do very important things could be damaged by ignoring the bump. So don't ignore the bump. Number 4 is this road is turning dramatically. Please stay on the roadway. It's kind of dangerous if you don't sign. Okay? Number 5 is telling you, hey, the road's going to split to go around something. Don't worry, it'll come back together. Okay? So if you see number 5, pick a side. Don't worry, it's not affecting your route. Right? Number 5 is a temporary separation, and they'll come back together. Number 14, that one is telling you that the road is splitting in 2 directions, and you need to pick the one you need to go to, but we'll get to that guy in a moment. All right, the number 6 is the please don't hit me sign. This is frequently posted around things like if there's a fountain in the middle of town square, they'll have these around the fountain so everyone can see them as they're driving up and turn around them. Okay? If you see number 4, number 6, number 4, number 6, number 4, number 6, know that there is a very sharp curve and death lies on the other side. Please be sure to slow down and make that curve. That's not a joke. Right? That's literally what it means when it's 4, 6, 4, 6, 4, 6. Right? It means that this is super dangerous. Do not mess this curve up. Right? Number 7 is telling you, hey, trucks use this road. If you don't want to share that road, or if you don't like sharing a road with big trucks, probably shouldn't be driving on that road. It's that easy. Number 8 is a road narrows. Narrows means it gets less wide, right? But because the sign says road narrows, that means that the road is going to be narrow. It's going to be less wide for a long stretch, right? So be careful, slow down a little bit maybe, and get the best lane position. Okay. Number 9, dip. A low point in the roadway. I hit a low point in the roadway expecting it to be nothing in a minivan. And my van bottomed out. I went, and it felt like, well, it's not that it felt like. The tires did not keep the body of the van off the ground. And bam, it slammed down and my engine immediately cut off. 4 hours of mechanic labor later at $50 an hour, my mechanic goes, Steve, all I had to do was this. I was like, awesome, so it's fixed. It took me 4 hours to find that. And I'm like, I'm an idiot, it's okay. How much do I owe you? Because I knew it was my fault. I disregarded the dip. I damaged my car. It didn't matter that it was something simple. It was my fault it got messed up. How long did it take you to find it? And then he said 4 hours, and I was like, oh, because I just paid $200 for being stupid. Folks, it happens to the best of us. It happens to the worst of us. It happens to lots of people. But if you're prepared, if you know, hey, respect the bump, respect the dip, it's less likely to happen to you. Okay? Number 10, soft shoulder. What does soft shoulder mean? The shoulder is the side of the road. Soft shoulder means the side of the road sucks, do not pull over, do not attempt to drive on this. That's what it means. You pull over on the soft shoulder, you're probably going to get stuck. Try to drive on a soft shoulder, you're probably going to lose control and go further off road or slide into the road and get hit by a car. Do not drive or park on a soft shoulder. It's that easy. Lousy stuff side of the road, bad traction. Right. Number 11 is the direct result of people not listening. Now, remember I said that people disregarded the yield sign because it was yellow? Well, number 11 used to be a sign that said, watch for bridge, or just plain and simple, bridge. And what did the state want us to do? What did the government want us to do? They wanted us to slow down and stay in our lane. That's, just generally good advice with today's vernacular, right? Slow down and stay in your lane. Everyone should do that in life and on the road. Right? But they didn't do that. Instead, what they did was drove however the damn well they pleased, and they continued to have accidents. Well, when you have an accident on the bridge, one of the things that happens commonly is car goes off the bridge, people drown. To minimize this, some person in DC one day went, what if, now listen to me, I know it sounds crazy, but what if we made the road more dangerous? And they were like, what do you mean make the road more dangerous? What if we make the road narrow over that bridge? That way, if they don't slow down, they're automatically terrified because they feel like they're going to crash into the other car, so it forces them to slow down. And then someone was like, that's crazy. So crazy, it just might work. And it in fact did. Okay. When the sign first came out, there were skeptics. At this point, it's proven itself. Okay. Number 11 means the road becomes more narrow as you cross over water. As you cross a bridge ahead, the road is going to become more narrow. Slow down, stay in your lane. Right? And because the road is more dangerous and it's more perilous and it's more scary, people slow down and stay in their lane. It's amazing. What responsibility couldn't get us to do, fear did. The government's not above using fear to keep us in check. Because at the end of the day, number 11 has saved a ton of lives by making the road more dangerous as you cross over a body of water. Oh, well, that's how it works. But hey, it worked. Number 12, highway intersection ahead. Why would they tell me there's an intersection ahead? Probably because people crash there. It's that easy, right? So if there's a sign warning you about it, be advised you needed the warning. It's dangerous. Make sure that you're doing what you needed to do. All right, number 13 is our T intersection. But this is what you see when you come up to a road that dead ends. Now, once you're coming up to it, you'll see the T intersection letting you know that your road's going to stop and you're going to have to turn either left or right. When you arrive at the T intersection, just ahead of you, you'll see a sign and it's one arrow pointing one way, stick in the middle, another arrow pointing the other way, telling you got to turn that way or that way. Okay? Now, the state of Texas does refer to as T intersections as very dangerous intersections because of this. If you're going to go right, you have to turn right from a dead standstill and get on the roadway. If there is traffic coming from your left in that lane, they're already going the speed limit. You have a high likelihood of getting rear-ended if you didn't check for traffic. When you turn left, it's even more dangerous because you pull forward and now there has to be no one coming in this lane. And then you make your turn once you start getting into that left lane, and now you have to be sure that there's no traffic coming from the other direction. So T intersections are dangerous because they require us to make 100% certain that it's safe before turning. And not everybody does. Okay. Number 14 is an Idega, a Y intersection. And that road is quite literally going to split. Right? It's like mitosis in action. You have one road, now we have two. Hooray! All right, sometimes they become different roads. Sometimes it stays the same road, but it's a loop. Regardless, the road is going in a different direction and it's not going to come back together anytime soon. So you need to pick the direction you need. There's not a lot of these down here, but we do have a few Y intersections in the valley. Right? So just understand that, put on your signal just to notify the other drivers, because the road is splitting, you're not deciding to turn, but we still want to signal to let the people behind us know. Because if we're going to the left and the car behind us is going to go to the right, once we start signaling, well, they know that as soon as we start to move over, they can get past us and go to the right. Right? Number 15 is the sign where two lanes become one. Okay? The Spice Girls lane. Now, it's you're driving, and then another lane is going to come, join yours, and cars are going to be merging in. So what does that mean? That means we need to be keeping our eye out for traffic. And if you're on the lane that's merging with the other one, you need to be watching traffic, finding the gap, positioning yourself, matching their speed, and getting in there. We'll talk about that further later, but there's a lot more to it on number 15 right here than there was on number 4 on the first page. Number 4 on the first page is one lane, another lane comes next to it. This one, 2 lanes become 1, therefore the opportunity for collision is much higher. Number 16, that is our pedestrian crossing sign. It is a diamond though, but the meat bags, yeah, in the words of Zach Brannigan, the flesh is spongy and weak. Therefore, whether we have the sign telling us there's a pedestrian crossing or not, whether they should be crossing there or not, if a meat bag walks into the road in front of your car, well, your metal box needs to stop before impacting the meat bag. They get the right of way 100% of the time. Because if you don't, that's what you reduce a human being to, a bag of meat being held together by some skin. Right? Because you're not alive after a car hits you going 40 miles an hour, just not typically. All right? I've been hit by 3 cars in my life, one going 5 miles an hour, that kind of sucked, one going 10 miles an hour. I kind of stayed inside for about 3 weeks because, I had different parts that were hurting significantly. Street football, that's why we don't do that anymore, folks. And the other car that hit me was going 30 miles an hour, but that was fortunately a glancing blow. It hit me hard enough to spin me. My face hit the fender, rolled across the fender. My other hip wound up hitting the driver's side door as he sped off. That was a hit and run. But it was a little unavoidable. I had bruises on one side of my body, my face on both sides. I had a cracked pelvis, which is not fun. You like walking, right? Well, you kind of can't for 6 weeks while that heals up. And the best part is once I got better, I was re-injured because someone thought that right before I got hit by a car, I assaulted their kid. I was pushing their kid out of the way. That's why the accident was unavoidable. Then they beat the holy hell out of me once I was better. So out of the 2, the car hurt more. Most definitely. And it was a lot faster. 3 seconds of car was just too much for me. Walking home with a cracked pelvis is rather painful. So yeah, stay out of the road, folks. And when a person's in the roadway, please give them the right of way because they can't handle it. All right? Now, construction signs, nice and simple because most of them are words. Problem is that they're in English. Not everyone in our fair country speaks the language. So some people just don't know what they say. All right? If you know someone that drives a lot and they can't read any English, maybe show them this video and explain this to them to where they can break it down. Because there's signs like shoulder work. That's great. Well, there's only going to be one sign talking about the shoulder, and that's shoulder work. So if you see this word, shoulder, that means acotamiento in Spanish, that they're fixing the side of the road. Be careful there. 1 lane road, 1,000 feet. Well, 1 lane, nice and easy, in 1,000 feet. Okay, so in 1,000 feet, we're going to have 1 lane. Commonsensical. All right, the next one below that one is not a dude with a box of Cheerios. It isn't somebody trying to bribe you with a pizza. It's letting you know that there is going to be a flag waver, a construction crew 500 feet down the road. That's why right underneath the sign it says 500 feet. Okay? When there are people or machines present in use, all traffic fines in Texas are doubled. Remember that. Okay? Road closed 1,000 feet. Well, closed, cerrado, 1,000 feet means in 1,000 feet that road she be no more. Okay? That's easy, right? Narrow lanes ahead. Well, the lane is the thing that I drive in. Narrow means not wide ahead. So not wide, things that I drive in ahead. Real simple, the lane gets thin ahead, no problem. Right? Road construction ahead. Yeah, there's construction ahead and it's on the road. Nice and simple, just you're entering a construction zone. Right? Detour 1,000 feet, that means at 1,000 feet you will be forced to turn right or left for a detour. No ifs, ands, or buts. But that's okay because they warned you about it. Okay. Road work 1 mile. For the next mile, they're working on the road. Fresh oil, Much like the car water slide sign, the slippery when wet sign, fresh oil means, hey, we just put oil down. Normally, that's okay, but if it starts raining, this road is going to get super slippery, so be careful. Okay? Once again, it's the only one that's going to have the word oil on there, so if someone doesn't speak English, you just teach them that oil means aceite, and boom, they now know how to avoid that problem. And then a lot of these words are very similar to their Spanish siblings, so, we can point that out too for them. Right? End construction, there is no end, but for now, in that area there is. And that's what that sign is telling you, that you have reached the end of a construction project and you can go back up to normal speed if you had to slow down for peoples. Right? Slow traffic ahead has nothing to do with their intelligence. It's advising you that the traffic is moving slowly. Probably because there's a reduction in lanes and people don't know how to get out of the lane early. Right? Dead serious, that happens way too much. All the traffic jams here in Weslaco, or not Weslaco, over there in Far-ish, when you're getting close to that Veterans exit, because that lane narrows down right there, that's where traffic jams generally occur out here on the express. Because people just see that one lane's all empty, and they think, this one's special just for me! And then they get to the end, and now they're causing traffic jams, and the 40 people that followed them because they were just as smart. All right, it's not a special lane. When you see a lane is completely empty and traffic is moving a little bit slower, probably because that lane is ending. All right, and then detour. First you see the top sign, and then when you arrive at the detour, that arrow is going to point you in the exact direction you need to go. Right? And if there are several detour signs pointing the full route, they will show you, all right, now turn here, back onto this one, you're good to go. Right? Just follow the detour signs, never try to drive past them because generally it's not safe to do so. Usually it's against the law. Railroad signs. First comes the circle, and right at the railroad tracks comes the crossbuck. Right? It's the only circle sign, so we know when we see a circle, even if it's painted like a globe or a baseball or football coming at you or a Jigglypuff has seen from above, whatever. It's still letting you know that it's a railroad crossing, right? The crossbuck, that white X, is placed right at the railroad tracks. So first is the yellow one to warn you. The second one tells you exactly where it is. Never try to beat the train, right? Back in January, a 92-year-old man in the state of Texas lost his life because he attempted to beat several trains, beat the first two, the third one, not so much, right? And you know what? I tell you what, a person that gutsy probably lived one heck of a life, and there are definitely some people missing that guy. All right. So folks, never try to beat the train. Even when you beat the train, you may have just violated the law and earned yourself a whole bunch of tickets when cops catch you. Right? And since they get your license plate, and that gives them your name, your address, and all that other stuff, they may not catch you right away. They may just show up at your place a little later in the day to give you that ticket. Okay? Please do not try to beat the railroad. Do not try to beat the train. It is just a non-winning situation. If they beat you or if they tie, you lose. Right? If they don't beat you and the cops see you, you lose. Right? Guide signs offer a variety of information and sometimes have unusual shapes like the Interstate 22 sign. They mark routes, intersections, service areas, and other points of interest. Okay? International signs will always utilize symbols instead of words. If you're looking for the airport and you're in Seoul, Korea, you're in, Bangkok, Thailand, you're in frickin' Beijing, China, what are you looking for? A picture of an airplane on a yellow diamond. Same thing you're looking for in the United States, in Mexico, and Canada, and a bunch of other countries. International signs are all the ones with the pictures. Those pictures are universally recognized around the world because a bicycle does not change shape, an airplane does not change shape. Like the kangaroo sign, kangaroo crossing, and the deer crossing, those animals' shapes, we still recognize them. That's why they use the symbol instead of the word. Okay? Animal crossing signs are international signs. That's why they use those symbols. Right? Traffic signals. Green does not mean go. Green means you may proceed only when the intersection is clear. If you go as soon as that light turns green and there's a pedestrian standing right in front of you, you run them over, they get hurt, you go to jail. Green means once the intersection is clear of pedestrians, of vehicles. And when I say clear, I mean the pedestrian started over here. They got all the way across the street, not just past your lane, but like all the way across the street. Then we go. Because if we start going, the cars on the other side might start going, and they still have that pedestrian there. So we wait. Maybe there's a car stuck in the middle of the intersection because the light went red as they were waiting to turn. We wait, let them clear the intersection, and then we go. Not until everything is safe and clear do we go. So you've been lied to your entire life. Yes, green does not just mean jump on out there and go. Green means go when everything is safe. Yellow means make every effort to stop safely for a yellow light. And red, as you very well know, means stop, right? You must come to a full stop. Now, some people believe that if you are turning right on a red light, you do not have to stop. That's bull funky, right? You must come to a complete stop when you arrive at a red light, regardless of what you're doing, okay? Now, once you have made sure that it is safe and clear for you to do so, you may turn right on red, but you have to stop for at least 3 seconds, folks. Them's the rules, right? Now, yellow traffic signals, how do you know if you're going to make it through a yellow light? There's a couple ways. Here's one. All right, when approaching any traffic signal, you should have your foot covering the brake as you approach and cross the intersection. Why? Because lights quickly change, people do crazy things, make turns that they shouldn't, get in our way. So we're ready to stop in the emergency because intersections are where most accidents happen, so this is a level of safety. Right? As you approach a traffic signal, just take your foot off the gas and coast in. Right? Keep your foot over the brake just in case you need to slam on them because someone else does something dumb. Because just because you have the green light or just because the light is still yellow for you does not mean someone's not going to run it. It doesn't. All right? Traffic lights are set by timers or sensors. Certain times of days it's timers. During really busy hours it's sensors. If you're traveling at speed limits below the speed limit and they are currently on timers, you will be able to stop before the light turns red. Right? But there is another way so you can tell specifically if you're too close to the intersection to stop or make it through, and I'll tell you about that when we get to it. All right? But if you are not going above the speed limit, the light will, if you are going above the speed limit, the light will not be yellow long enough, and you will not have enough time to stop before you get to the light. Okay? Because speed increases stopping distance dramatically. So if you're going faster than the speed limit, you won't be able to stop in the allotted time, even if you're in the right area with a yellow light. All right? So we need to make sure that we watch our speed and be careful with lights. All right? Don't rush through them. Do not accelerate towards an intersection, start speeding just because you're afraid the light's about to go red. Just keep going steadily. Yes, we lose a whole minute of our life stopping at a red light. Oh no, the world has ended. We can deal with a minute, folks. All right? And then you ever feel like when you're in a hurry, you hit every single red light? Well, most often it's because you are, right? What tends to happen is light goes red and you stop and go, come on, or the driver's, come on, I'm in a hurry. I have a doctor's appointment to get to, and I decided to play one more round of Halo or Fortnite instead of leaving. Now I need to get there fast. Go, green light. And then the light goes green and they take off and they go and they get down that road. And then they get to the next intersection and they're stopping again because, oh man, light's red again. Come on. And then you look in your rear view mirror and all those cars that you just blew past catch up to you. And then the first couple start to stop and then boom, the light goes green. And there you are taking off like a madman again. Right? Folks, drive the speed limit. Drive normally, and when lights are on timers, I have made it from one side of McAllen all the way to the other. I have made it from 495 all the way to 107. That's Pecan. That's like a mile away from the expressway, and 107 is 8 miles away from the expressway, right? And I have made it all the way from there to there without having to stop because I was going within the speed limit during a timered time. Okay? And it's awesome. Okay, go a couple miles an hour under the speed limit during a timed time of day when there isn't a ton of traffic on the roadway, and you're going to hit a bunch of greens instead of hitting every single red. But if you're accelerating and trying to get to that red light as soon as possible, well, you're going to have to stop as soon as possible, right? Because it doesn't matter how fast you get there, that light is not changing any sooner when they're on timers. And they're only on sensors during the peak rush hours, 7 a.m., noon, 5 p.m. Around those times, that's when the traffic's on sensors. The rest of the time, it's all timed. Okay? Now, the 3 white lines, well, don't worry about those 2 little thin lines on the end. We still stop our car completely behind the thick white line. And then any pedestrians waiting to cross get to cross through the 2 white thin lines because that's the crosswalk. Anyone at the intersection waiting for to cross gets to go before us. That's how the priority works. Pedestrians get to go ahead of cars, right? If you pull too far forward and a pedestrian has to step out into the roadway to get around your vehicle or has to go behind and they get hit by another car because they're doing that, it's your responsibility because you blocked the crosswalk. So do not block the crosswalk. Stop completely behind the line. Once all the pedestrians have made it through, then you can roll forward to make that right-hand turn or continue straight once everything is clear. Okay? But before then, you have to make that complete stop behind the thick white line and allow all pedestrians going left or right to use the crosswalk ahead of you. Okay? Now, flashing signals, they alert drivers to dangerous conditions or tell them to stop. A red flashing signal is a stop sign for all intents and purposes. You make that full stop. 1, 2, 3. And then if everything is safe and clear, you may go. Otherwise, you keep waiting until it is safe and clear. A yellow flashing signal tells you to slow down, proceed with caution, treat it like a yield sign. Look for other cars coming, and if you see they're going to use the intersection ahead of you, slow down to let that happen. You may have to stop at a yellow flashing light if another vehicle is turning there. That's okay, but be on the lookout for when you see the yellow flashing light, we need to be looking for the other traffic. We need to be checking, right? Now, roadway markings come in 2 colors. They come in yellow and in white. Yellow signs tell us the traffic is traveling in the opposite direction. White signs tell us the traffic is traveling in the same direction, right? We also have broken and solid lines. Broken lines are Gandalf standing in front of the Balrog screaming, "You shall not pass!" Or solid lines do that. Broken lines are like open gates telling us you may cross here, you may cross here. Okay. Nice and simple. Solid lines, Gandalf, no. Broken lines, yes, open doors, please come through. Right? That's for passing and stuff. Right here we have a broken yellow line and the line's broken, so technically we can pass. Generally we want more room than this, but we can cross and pass vehicles in this area because there is no solid line. All right? But when you cross that yellow line, the direction traffic's coming from flips, so that means it's now oncoming traffic. We need to pass, cross, back over to our side once it is safe. All right? This maneuver, as illustrated, is cutting them off and getting too close. It's just an example, though, to keep it on screen. Okay? Here we go. There's that lane ending sign. That's that same shape right here. Now that vehicle that arrived at that solid line has to wait and move over once everything's safe. Right? So when you see the lane is ending, get out of that lane ahead of time because you're not going to be able to go beyond a certain point. Okay? And then here we have 2 lanes. One has a solid line, one has a broken line. The one with the broken line is able to cross and pass in that area. The one on the solid sign cannot. Don't worry. They take turns. Down the road, it'll switch. Sometimes it's due to the shape of the curves on the road. Sometimes it's just a matter of keeping things safe on a nice long straight piece of road. You can pass here, you can pass here. Right? They don't want everybody doing it at the same time because you may have that situation where 2 cars cross each other, panic a little bit, and then try to move back and hit each other as they're crossing back over. Okay? But each side will get an opportunity to pass. No worry. Right? And then the double solid yellow line, the "are you kidding me" line, the "no mames" line. Why do I call it that? Because there is no reason to be on that side of the roadway. You cannot cross a double solid yellow line. Why? Because if you need to pass, in this situation, you have that other lane, right? But the real reason is because they don't have room to go somewhere to avoid you because of the other traffic, the other stuff going on, right? So folks, when you're in this situation, when you see this, make sure you stay on your side of the double yellow line because it is not safe for you to be over there. We do not cross that line. If you see someone about to do that, the words coming out of your mouth should be, "Are you freaking kidding me?" or "No mames." Right, folks? That's how it works, all right? Because there's no reason. If we need a pass, we got room here, right? But they do not have anywhere to go to stay safe to avoid us if we move over there, okay? So be careful, be safe, stay on your side of the solid white lines, right? Or solid yellow lines. Now, right here, this is the other example for how you know you're gonna make it, all right? If you're coming up to an intersection and the light goes yellow, and you can see where that white line that divides those lanes starts, and it's generally pretty short, it's very close to the intersection, but if you're in this position where you can see where the line starts, you have enough room to stop, okay? If you are inside that line completely, like the front of your car is at like where the O in only is, then you would have the time to make it through the intersection before the light went red, and legally you would be able to do so, okay? But if you are outside where those lines start, you won't have the room, and you have all the room you need to stop safely. Okay, just check your rear view mirror, make sure the traffic behind you isn't tailgating, and then come to that nice stop because you can see the end of the line. Right? If you can't, if you're well within it, then you know you won't be able to stop before the intersection, and you'll have the time you need to make it through. Now, you come to this intersection, and you're stopped at the red light, waiting to turn to the right. Since the lines next to us are now solid, we can no longer change lanes. We can no longer change our position. So what do you have to do in this situation when you realize, damn, I wanted to go straight, I didn't want to turn? Too bad. You have to continue with what the lane you're in tells you to do and make a new route to your destination. Make a couple extra turns and fix yourself, get back on the road you wanted to be. Okay? But we are not allowed to change lanes and cross that line. And the only time you get to use the side of the road to turn is when it has that arrow and it says only. When it is a specific turning lane, when there's gap for you to move in there. If there's a solid white line running all the way up to the corner, that's not a turning lane. Then we turn from our lane, right? Now, reflectors, I love these guys, right? Because they're often reflectors on the roadway to help with the direction of travel between lanes better at night, right? Now, they have them in yellow to identify two-way streets. They have them in white to identify one-way streets. That's fantastic, but this next one's my favorite. Because if you're going the wrong way, boom, you see little red reflectors. So if you're driving down a road and you're like, why are the things in the middle of the road red? Pull over to the right side of the road, slow down, stop, wait until everything's safe and clear, and get spun around because you're going the wrong way. And that's fantastic. That is an idea that saves lives. Okay. And then rumble strips, right? Now rumble strips are, all three of these are super important, but from right to left is least important to most important. Okay, all the way to the right, we have the least important one. This one is going, hey, wake up, you're starting to drift off the roadway. You got a couple feet to make that correction. You're good. So this is 99.0% important. If you ignore this, you have a 99% chance of something terrible happening to you, right? So yes, it is beneficial. It alerts you that you're going off the roadway, gets you back into your lane. The middle picture, the rumble strips are over a double yellow line informing you, hey, you shouldn't be crossing this line. Watch out, stay on your side, because what's on the other side is danger. So yes, that is slightly more important. This is 99.5% important. Still super important, just a little bit more important. And then the one all the way to the left, I believe, is the most important, because that one only happens when a sign did not cut it, when a light did not cut it. Rumble strips on your lane is alerting you to something dangerous coming up on the road ahead of you, and you really need to pay attention, because for them to do this means that no matter what else they did, they couldn't help reduce people succumbing to this thing, this hazard, people falling victim of this hazard, right? So rumble strips are all super important, but when they're telling us to stay on the road, they're super important. When they're telling us to stay in our lane on our side of the road, they're super duper important. When they are telling us, hey, something's coming up on the road, that is the most critical, because that is the last ditch effort to try to make an intersection safe. Okay, folks? And that is the end of day 2 of Teen Driver Education, the Hernandez Driveway. Now, folks, we're going to be getting together tomorrow for day 3 of Teen Driver Education, where we start the Texas DPS Handbook Review. All right, and that's going to be part 1. The next day will be part 2, and we're going to finish up everything we don't cover tomorrow. There is, once again, a lot more information to cover. We will be going to the very limit tomorrow, and then probably on Thursday we'll end a few minutes early. We'll have time for question and answer for all those burning questions that y'all have. And that day we'll also discuss the assignment sheet list with that little bit of extra time that we have, because we do have a way that we keep track of your assignments, but we'll talk about that further then. But at this point, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. Today was day 2 of Teen Driver Education, the Hernandez Driveway. So every day, make the world a better place, but first do no harm. Every day, make that choice, make that change, make that decision to become the best version of you can. Because you are in absolute control of your choices, of you. And you can do anything with your life if you simply choose to. All right, folks, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel for day 3 of Teen Driver Education, the Hernandez Driveway. Y'all have a great evening, and I'll see you then. Cebu.